All right, good evening. So just like I recognize a lot of faces out here, just like with our classes, I think we'll probably have a few people wandering in late this evening. But I'm excited to see everybody. Thank you all for being here. For those of you who don't recognize me, my name is Professor Jared Anderson. I am the head coach here for the Sacramento State Speech and Debate team. I also teach at Sacramento City College. I see a lot of my Sacramento students here tonight, so I'm really excited to have you all here tonight for your extra credit points. We are excited here for our public forum. We do an event like this every semester. The Sac State Debate team hosts a public forum or a public debate or a public debate event of this type every semester here in order to try to share what it is that we do so that we're not just traveling on the weekends to tournaments and competitions, but that we are also able to explore debate in a lot of different formats and talk about argumentation and advocacy and bring that to you in a number of different ways. So tonight we have invited a panel of experts on the issue of artificial intelligence, which some of you, if you're in my intro to argumentation class, have been studying all semester. So we are going to be discussing and thinking about and talking about all sorts of different issues having to do with artificial intelligence, regulating artificial intelligence, ethics with regards to artificial intelligence, how it can be used, how it can be controlled, should it be controlled? Lots of different questions about that. So we will be having a lively discussion on that issue, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Tonight's forum will be moderated by our graduate assistant coach. His name is Mark Espinosa. Mark was on the debate team a number of years ago during our COVID years, so his tournaments were online, but he has been in graduate school here at Sacramento State, and part of that is working with the debate team, traveling with us, helping us to coach, and he gets to moderate tonight's debate. So welcome, Mark, and I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you both, appreciate that. I'm going to try my best not to faint today. So that's happened before. I've seen people come up here and faint, and we've got to tactically drag them out. But so if I faint, please make me look cool, drag me out. Thank you. With that said, hello and welcome to tonight's morning debate public forum. My name is Mark Espinosa, and I'm a graduate assistant and one of the debate coaches on the debate team. It has been a great honor this semester to travel with the team and watch many of them demonstrate their skills as debaters. This year, the team dominated in the following places. First place in San Francisco, Stockton, and DVC. Furthermore, each debater on the team has great qualities, such as hard work, determination, and willingness to motivate and help others. Like all great teams, it requires a team captain and knowledgeable coach. So let's give Taylor Gardner and Jared Anderson a nice applause. So rumor has it there's a lot of Sac City college students in here, so if you're planning on transferring to Sac State, please sign up or are thinking about joining the debate team, Comms 111. With that said, it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest, Dr. Garrett Merriam. From the Philosophy Department of Sacramento State, Dr. Merriam is an esteemed scholar in the field of philosophy, known for his insightful work and thoughtful provoking contributions with keen focus on bioethics and neuroethics. He has not only enriched academic discourse, but also inspired countless students and colleagues. He has published articles on relationships between AI and human emotions and caused stir by using AI to catch 40 out of 96 students in his introduction to ethics class cheating on their final exam. He even helps coach Ethics Bowl debate team, where students debate moral questions centered on multiple issues. Angelique Laughlin is an associate professor of English and a member of English Department's writing program. She is also currently serving as AI champion for College of Arts and Letters through Sac State's AI institution. Professor Laughlin's interest in generative AI could be broadly categorized as interest in AI literacy or engaging with AI in a critical, intentional way. This focus stems from teaching focus on digital and professional writing. As a digital and professional writing scholar, she is concerned with ensuring that students have the support they need to use technological effectively and ethically for writing in their courses and careers. She also oversees graduating teaching associates for English department and has been working with them to navigate challenges caused by AI. Professor Laughlin's research is currently focused on critical data literacy, and she has a book titled Critical Data Story in the Competition Classroom, further coming from Utah State University Press. In that book, she considers how knowledge of data is foundational for understanding and engaging with generative AI. Matt McCormick is a professor in the philosophy department. He has been on thinking about and teaching related philosophy of AI and technological for many years. Professor McCormick regularly teaches a course on philosophy of AI and related courses on the philosophy of mind. He also teaches decision theory, game theory, probability, and rationality, and critical thinking. So he spends a lot of time reading and thinking about how to reason well, and how AI tech are connected. Professor McCormick has also published extensively on the philosophy of religion, atheism, and even the morality of violent video games. Okay, panelists, for our first question of the night. According to Digital Promise, the potential for AI to facilitate learning by allowing teachers to better understand and respond to students emotionally and cognitively states could dramatically enhance educational outcomes and make learning a truly personalized experience. Digital Promise 2024. Do you think AI technology can effectively be used in a classroom setting? How can teachers use it to help improve learning outcomes? How can we avoid student plagiarism and other forms of cheating with AI? Dr. Mario.
If I may, actually, I think I want to let Angela take this one first, because she was saying beforehand that this is something, one question that she was particularly interested in chomping at the bit. So if you mind going first?
Sure. All right. Hi. Good evening. Thanks for being here. Yeah. So since I'm in the writing program, we've kind of been like ground zero for a lot of the stuff that's been happening with generative AI, because people recognize immediately that students were using it to generate papers and turn them in, and so it just really changed a lot of practices that people were using. And so I think not surprisingly, a lot of people, especially in my field, just wanted to ban AI immediately and just sort of pretend that it hadn't been released. And I think that some people did try to do that at first, and maybe still are. But it's been difficult to enforce any bans. We don't have any technology that can ascertain when students are using AI reliably. And we get a lot of false positives, and actually a lot of the students that are flagged as using AI are English as a second language speakers and have like their cognitive differences, or just have a kind of mechanical writing style. And so they are often the people who get kind of caught up in these accusations. And so they're kind of the most vulnerable students to begin with. So we have a lot of interest in sort of changing that approach so that we aren't creating inequitable uses of AI in the classroom, essentially, or early bans. So in my particular area in writing studies, in digital writing, we're like really committed to helping students use technology well. And so we've tried to move more toward transparency in AI use. And so we found that if we can't simultaneously tell students this technology is terrible and we hate it, but please tell us when you use it. Like, that won't work. Students won't do that, right? Because that wouldn't make any sense. So we have to say instead, it's okay for you to use it, and we're going to help you use it correctly and in an effective way. But we do need you to be upfront with us when you're going to do that. And that takes trust, right, in a relationship, because a lot of students haven't heard that from teachers before, and they kind of think you're trying to trap them. Also, I found it's helpful to just sort of model for students, like when I'm using AI, like here's how I'm doing it. Or look, I used an image generator to create this thing on my slide, and here's how I cited it. And so by doing those kinds of things, then they see that I'm not totally against it, and they will be more upfront with me. And now I do have students who turn in entire papers with citations to AI. so they are still using AI to generate the papers, but they are sort of telling me that they're doing it. And then I can work with them to help see, like, you can't use any source like that, right? You can't, that's like going to your friend and saying, write my paper, and now turning that in. Like, that's just not cool, no matter what your source is. But I do think that moving toward that, like, we're working together, we're working with AI, and now, I'm working with the students. That has been sort of positive direction as well. So I don't know if that's my time, but yeah, no.
If you wanted to say or elaborate, go for it, Dr. Lappin.
No, I think I want to hear what the others have to say on this topic too.
Dr. McCormick or Dr. Murray?
Hi, thanks. I guess I'm gonna make a weird case for less tech over more tech for children and education. In general, I'm a techno-utopian optimist. I think ultimately good things are gonna come out of all this. But I think at the end of the day, what we're learning with what she's up against on the ground with students writing papers, and what we've been trying to do for years now, trying to fold tech into classroom, is that's not working very well. It's not helping. It's not helping for a bunch of reasons. And the pressure on us is always to go big, is to use one teacher with AI and tech to teach 500 students. And that's not gonna work either. I think my quick pie in the sky proposal is we use the enormous GDP benefit and economic boom and the general rising of all the boats on the tide here so that we can reconfigure education, and we, instead of having 50 students per teacher, we have 5 students per teacher. And if that teacher can be supplemented and you get some help from AI, that'd be fine. But then you can have that teacher sit down with them and they go read a book, and then you ask them 10 questions about the book, and you have them write the paper right there. And because detection is not gonna work, it's never gonna work. We're never going to catch it. The cat's out of the bag on that. And it's not that I don't want to excessively moralize people using it. It's just that this is basically a Paleolithic primate that was evolved to deal with a certain set of problems. And the developmental stages, I don't mean just you, I mean me too. The developmental stages of us growing and learning, K through 12 and then to college, it's really sensitive and really important that happens a certain way. And I think we know what the best way for that is. It's that you need to have human contact with other humans and talk and relate and have emotional connection and connect over the ideas. And I think tech is separating us from that in a lot of really bad ways. And I think the outcomes are probably worse now. For the same class I'm teaching that I was teaching, 20 years ago before we were doing this, I think the students probably on average are coming out there having learned less, having used Canvas and AI and all these other tech advantages.
Yeah, and I want to harmonize with a lot of what my co-panelists here have said, but I want to start off by making a quick historical anecdote, going back to Plato. Plato puts the following point in the mouth of Socrates, his teacher, where Socrates says that the invention of writing was actually a terrible thing that happened to human beings, because it just wrecked our capacity to remember things. Prior to the invention of writings, people would have to store things in their minds, and now that they could write it down, they could externalize it, they just start forgetting. And so that's always been something of a metaphor for kind of a technological phobia. New developments, scaring people, saying it's going to ruin everything. And people say the same thing about basically every form of technology that has been used in an educational capacity ever since. And that goes for AI too. So the idea, again, of banning it is simply preposterous. It's a common phrase in philosophy that ought implies can. To say you ought to do something implies that it's possible to do that thing. And anyone who's attempting to completely ban AI from the classroom or from society in general is going to find that's a losing battle. So that by itself can't possibly be the strategy. Limit it, regulate it, try to minimize its harms indefinitely, but not banning it, simply not going to work. Using it in a collaborative way, using it to make your lectures more engaging, more visual imagery. I've used AI to help me write reading quiz questions, and being open and honest about that, trying not to to give the impression that this technology is inherently evil or inherently bad, because that's not only not true, but it's almost certainly going to backfire on me. At the same time, I will push back a little bit on what Matt said, though, is that I am a little bit more optimistic about catching, because as was mentioned in my intro, I caught 40 out of 96 of my students cheating on the final. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of how I did that, because it's kind of like a magician giving away his tricks. I don't want people to know, because if they know how I did it, then they will be able to work around that. And so there is a kind of arms race mentality that can happen. Educators and instructors need to stay on top of what technologies exist and how to effectively counteract them. But at the same time, if that's all we think about, if we just think about it in terms of defeating technology or defeating the use of AI, that can't be a winning strategy either. The way I lead, what I try to sell my students on, is that there is one thing that I guarantee they can tell me that no machine ever can. And that is, what do you think? What do you think about this subject? I am sincerely interested. I got into this line of work because I want to know what my students think. And I do my best to sincerely let them know that. And in the perhaps naive hopes that if they hear that and they believe that, that will motivate them, not for fear of getting caught or fear of punishment, but simply the idea that they have something of unique value to offer that I am all here for. And if I can convince them that that's true, then I won't need to fight with them or to struggle with them or to detect them cheating. Not that I'm not going to try to do those things too, but that can't be the main strategy. Lean into their humanity to show them what humans are uniquely capable of producing, and then we can go forward from there.
Thank you. Well, you heard it, folks. Don't cheat, Dr. Mary. We'll find out. Next question of the night. While artificial intelligence has a lot of promise and has been used in a lot of different applications, there are major concerns about potential for AI to be harmful. How does harmful content made with the help of AI, specifically things like misinformation, plagiarism, the voice of illegal content, things such as deepfakes, relate to freedom of speech and the First Amendment? And how can we approach regulations addressing that?
So last one, I'll go first on this one. I think I have something of a spicy take on this one, perhaps, actually. So first off, I think it's important to remember and recognize that the Supreme Court has never said that free speech is an absolute value. There have always, since the original text of the Constitution, been limitations on free speech. Everything from fighting words, threats, slander and libel, patents and copyright, and of course the proverbial yelling fire in a crowded movie theater. These have all been well recognized as legitimate limitations on free speech. So there's a lot of people out there, armchair legal theorists, who seem to think that free speech is an absolute value, and there's never any justification for pushing back on it. And quite frankly, that's just naive. So with that as precedent, I think it's important to recognize that the First Amendment and the vast majority of the case law behind it are products of a pre-AI world. They are reflections of literally 18th century values. Now, I'm not mean to be cavalier about throwing those out. Obviously, it is an important value that's worth holding on to. But it is one that which can and does take a back seat when that value starts trespassing on other important societal interests. So when the harms become great enough, it is legally acceptable to regulate free speech. Now, of course, just because it's legal doesn't necessarily mean it's ethical. But when you consider the sorts of prospects that we're looking at for things like misinformation, deepfakes, and so forth, threats to democracy, threats to privacy, threats to personal